Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy, the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala with Crowdfunding Comics, here with the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend, my compadre, my amigo, Mr. Billy Tucci. Billy, how we doing tonight, buddy?
What's up, brain? I am a legend in my own mind, aren't I? Yeah, we've got a great show tonight. This is lucky number 9. This is one of the best. Niall, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do our introduction and then play our video, or should we give a little introduction first and then bring them on?
This one we're going to do a little introduction first, and then we're going to bring him on because Dan's got such a good story and such a great career, and I'd love to just kind of let everything flow. You know what I'm saying?
Groovy. All right. Well, okay. So everybody out there, good evening, all you crowdfunding crusaders across the world over, and welcome to episode 9. Who would have thought that we would have survived 9 episodes? And it's just getting bigger and better every single time. So tonight's special guest is an American comic book artist and writer, best known for his affable personality and historic work for Archie Comics. He is a graduate of the prestigious Kubert School and began working for Archie immediately after graduation. His writing of the Love Showdown series from 1994 received worldwide critical and commercial acclaim, and his ensuing work has proved to Archie fans that the torch has indeed been passed. He has also illustrated Felix the Cat, Barbie, Disney Adventures, and a huge array of other titles. But the reason why this amazing cartoonist has graced us with his presence tonight is the fact that the 3 issues of his delightful Die Kitty Die Kickstarter behemoth has raised over $163,000 for his publishing company, Astro Comics. Thus, it is mine and Niall's great pleasure to introduce one of the most popular and groundbreaking comic book creators of the past 25 years, the man who turned my wife's frown upside down with a stunning portrait of her at a comic convention and saved her comic convention because she was miserable after someone drew her, one of the Simpson artists drew her as a Simpson, and she did not like that at all. But anyway, I'd like to introduce the one, the only, my dear, dear friend, Mr. Dan Parent.
Dan,
hello.
how we doing?
Good. How you doing? Good to be
Great.
here.
Thanks for being here. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, I'm glad to love being here.
Well, welcome, Dan. Welcome so much. Are we going to run the video, or are we going to connect? Because I have some questions to ask.
Let's go into some questions, and then we'll get to the video.
All right. Well, Dan, I got a question that I know everyone out there is dying to know. Betty or Veronica?
Veronica. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Veronica.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's the easiest question in the world.
Yeah, that's so great because we've got to do like a poll on Twitter or something, because I remember I did that when in 1994 when I first got my computer. I did that. Remember what was it called? CompuServe, and we had a CompuServe. It was a CompuServe. I don't know, it was a web page, but it was all comic book people, and it was I guess it was a message board or a chat room or something. And I just did something like the headline was Betty or Veronica, and it was huge, and everybody got into it, and people started arguing, and but there was like, it went on for like 3-4 days, and it was like, I think I was one of the first I don't know, trolls or something, whatever they call those people, but.
Well, fortunately, Veronica has grown in popularity because it was always 3-1 for Betty.
Oh, it was?
Now, yeah, it used to always be. Now it's Betty's still more popular, but Veronica has definitely edged in closer. So
I love brunettes, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but
guy.
Yeah. But seriously, I know this is Crowdfunding Comics, and we've got lots of questions regarding Die Kitty Die. But let's start at the beginning. So if you would mind, tell us a little about yourself. How did you come to go to the Kubert School? I mean, that's a tough school to get into. And did you always want to be a comic book artist? So
yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a comic artist. I grew up like everyone else. I was reading comics probably, I think, at 5 years old, I think. I started out reading Harvey comics, which are a big influence on me, which you can see that in our Die Kitty Die stuff, little tributes to Harvey comics. Then, of course, it was Archie. And then got into superhero comics a little later. But through high school, I was a big comic book fan. Saw the ads in the comic books to go to the Kubert School. And I thought that'd be really cool to go there. Would love it. Didn't think it ever would really happen. And then 2 of my friends actually ended up going to Kubert School that I went to high school with. Pat Brasso and Scott McCrae. Pat's a letterer. He letters a million comics. And then Scott McCrae is an inker, does some of the humor stuff for DC. So once they went, I was like, oh, what am I doing here? I was raised in Vermont. Like, why am I still in Vermont when I could be going to art school?
Yeah.
So went to Kubert School, and it was a great experience. Learned so much, and in my third year, Archie was coming around looking at portfolios. So I had some Archie samples together because everyone else is into the superhero stuff, but I always still had that real fondness for Archie. And I started getting work third year, doing like one-pagers and doing like simple stuff. And upon graduation, there was an opening in the art department at Archie. So I started working up there full-time, right after graduation. And, it's been 32 years, and I'm still there.
Going strong.
Still going strong there, yeah.
And Dan, what was it like, though? I mean, working with some of such great teachers they had there, and some of the guys. I mean, was there anyone you truly gravitated towards as a teacher over at Kubert School?
There was so many good teachers. I mean, of course, Joe Kubert. Mm-hmm. I had him for narrative art, who was a great teacher and a great guy. I liked Hy Eisman a lot. I had Hy Eisman for lettering and for humor classes, and he was really great. But we also had we had Greg Hildebrandt for painting. Had Bill Sienkiewicz for a semester.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Al Williamson, who actually lives not far from out here in Pennsylvania, or he did live out here in Honesdale. But yeah, it was such an array of talent. Erwin Hazen, Tex Blaisdell. So yeah, it was a really, really good experience. I still recommend it to people. Mm-hmm. Because, basically, it's like every other school. It's kind of what you put into it. But mm-hmm. I remember going there and having, 8 hours of homework every day, or 8 hours of work every day.
Yeah.
So it's really that amount of work that makes you improve.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Any of your classmates doing comics today too? Anyone that we might have heard of? Or?
Yeah. Well, one of my classmate Bill Gollier, who I went to school with, also works for Archie. And we write and draw together at Archie. Fernando Ruiz, of course, who's my Die Kitty Die partner. He graduated about 7 years after me, but he still teaches at the Kubert School.
Oh, cool.
So and he worked for Archie for many years. So we have worked on a lot of projects together, which is how Die Kitty Die even came about. And Amanda Connor was the year before me at the school.
Oh, cool.
So of course Amanda's great. We all love Amanda.
Yeah.
And there was just so much talent came out of that school, especially like in the late 80s. It seemed like late 80s, early 90s. It was just incredible. So I highly recommend.
It is a great school, and just as some of the names you had, I mean, all distinct personalities, all distinct artists and cartoonists and all, and it's interesting that you went to that school, and I wonder if this had something to do with it. But one of the things that truly makes you stand out to me is that you've always given a real visual personality to Archie's favorite gals. I mean, the guys they all look different. They always did, but historically, it seemed to me that if you put a blue wig on Betty, bam, she looks like Veronica.
Right.
But with your art, you totally decipher one from the other. And I don't know if it's maybe the mannerisms you picked up or something like that. But is that something you made a point to do, or you just?
A little bit, and I think I tried to do that because Dan DeCarlo used to do that too. And I was lucky enough to sort of work with Dan. And I was able to learn a lot from him. And even though Betty and Veronica had the same face, he always was able to. You could always tell who Betty or Veronica was from like you said, from the mannerisms, from the way they moved. So I try to do that in drawing Betty and Veronica because they do have the same face basically.
But they don't seem to. Yeah, I don't know. They really don't seem to me. I don't know. There's something about it that you do that they all look different. So.
Yeah, there's a distinct look. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You try.
No, I think you do.
And for many years, I was fortunate to work with Dan for a long time, and and I also got to work with Stan Goldberg. Didn't work with Sam Schwartz, but he was there, and I knew him a little bit. But I was fortunate enough to be able to work with some of these great artists. When I started. So.
Were they welcoming to you? I mean, being that it's such such a historic comic company, you know, that had been around for so long, and it seems like I said, guys like Dan, that they were there for so many years. What was it like being brought into the Archie offices of the Archie family? You know what I mean? Were they?
The artists were always great. Like Dan and Stan were always fantastic. Dan DeCarlo was really great. He was always willing to work with you, work with me. You know, a lot of times they wanted us younger artists at the time to work with Dan and Stan when they would come into the office because, you know, they wanted their talent to rub off on us. And I would learn a lot just from, like, I would show Dan my pages, and he would put, like, you know, tracing paper on them and just sketch over what he would change. And even his doodles were, like, gorgeous, you know.
Yeah. Better
than the stuff that I had done underneath it by far. And but that's really how I, you know, was able to learn. But there was not really any ego when it came to Dan and Stan. Surprisingly, because I was so intimidated because I love Dan's work so much, and it was very intimidating to be like 20 years old and to go start working at Archie. But Dan, like I said, there was no ego at all.
And then you went to this, you know, because Archie's always seemed to be safe, you know, always seemed to be even keeled. Even during Vietnam, you know what I mean? And you know, the World War II, when it started, 1941 and all. But then you come in, and then, you know, you come in, and I guess after being there for a few years or so, you really changed the historic norms of just not Archie Comics, but the industry as a whole. I mean, you've got some really innovative storylines, you know, specifically with the introduction of Archie's first, you know, openly gay character, Kevin Keller. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, like, how did that come to be? And, you know, it had to be a huge risk, right? And a leap of faith.
Well, fortunately, it came at a time where we had new ownership in the company. Because in 1998, the previous owners, Michael Silverglide and Richard Goldwater, they passed within 6 months of each other.
Oh.
So there was a kind of like a vacuum in the company. Victor Gorelick was still there, and he's been there for 60 years. So he was there, but the actual ownership was in kind of flux. So then John Goldwater came in and took over as CEO and owner. And, you know, he was younger than his brother who owned the company before him, you know, 20, 25 years younger. Mm-hmm. So he sort of was like, you know, why is Archie still sort of like in the 50s? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's how he kind of felt like. It was like, yeah, we understood where he was coming from. You know, there's not a lot of diversity in Riverdale. So he's like, just kind of make it like 20th century. So we just started coming up with new characters to Riverdale. Just, you know, we introduce characters and just see if they clicked. And some characters clicked, some characters didn't. And then I was like, well, can we bring in a gay character? You know, it was 2010 at the time. And John was like, I can't think of a reason not to do it, so let's just do it.
Oh, good.
So when we brought in Kevin, we wanted to make sure that it was like a real thing, that it wasn't like a stunt or an after-school special or something that's going to just be there for like a quick sale and go away. So
we see far too often to marginalize.
Yeah, absolutely.
Characters like that for a quick buck. It seems a lot like, I remember Marvel did that with the Rawhide Kid.
Right.
And it was so transparent, and no one bought it. And I don't know, it just, and you saw what happened with that. But
then this book gained national attention all around, right? Positive reviews, and became the first Archie book to sell out.
It was the first Archie comic to sell out. Mm-hmm. It was also, you know, my concern was that the Archie fans would embrace the character, which they did. Mm-hmm. They really, Archie fan base really embraced the character. And, you know, a couple years later, Kevin was just one of the gang, and now he's on Riverdale, and, you know, now he's just part of the fabric of Archie. And then we also wanted to make sure that we also introduced like other more diverse characters. Like one of the other storylines I did that was probably popular was one where Archie was dating Valerie from Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh yeah.
And believe it or not, we never really had any like interracial like dating and stuff at Archie, which is kind of scary to say. At 2010, we hadn't explored that. But the way that came about was, again, it was sort of a natural progression. We were going to do a story where Archie was going to date Josie from Josie and the Pussycats, and I was supposed to work on it, and it just seemed kind of boring. Like, oh, you got two redheads. They're both leaders of the band. They both kind of like they're kind of like the kids next door. Like I don't know. And then when I thought about Valerie, I'm like, well, Valerie's fun because she's kind of like the smart ass.
Yeah.
And she's like the songwriter in the Josie and the Pussycats. And when we put her and Archie together, it just made sense.
Yeah, and I remember when that cover came out, and I don't think it was your cover though, but it was really hot. They're like embracing that profile, like a movie poster. That Val's got the guitar.
Oh yeah,
and then, that was. Did you draw that? I don't.
Yeah, well, I drew one where he's kind of holding Valerie. It's like raining outside, and they're kind of looking at each other. I don't know if maybe that's not the cover you're thinking of.
No, there's another one of them, and it's got a white background. If I remember, but it was hot. It was like, whoa, look at that. And I wonder if that was the second Archie comic ever to sell out.
It did very well. It did very. And again, that was one of those storylines that just it was fun. It felt natural. It was a little different for us, but it was probably the easiest story I ever wrote because it was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah. And what I love about it is that again, you're it's got. I'm sure you came across some resistance, and I bet a lot of it is people just tired of this false, this fake way of introducing diversity or something like that. But you made them real, and like you said, now Kevin is one of the stars of Riverdale. You know what I mean? Because you wrote a real. You wrote him as just another character. You didn't write him about what he was, but who he was, which was really refreshing.
Right. Exactly. That was the whole point because I didn't want it to come off as a stunt.
Yeah, and people, as groundbreaking as it was, and the same thing with Archie and Valerie, that the readers responded to it all over, and it's and as Nile said, you got national attention from it. The book sold out, and people recognized that it wasn't a stunt, and
I gave some dimension to the Archie-verse, if we want to call it. It's definitely what you've turned around gave some more depth to these characters, and I mean now we've got this great. I enjoy watching Riverdale. Do you have any impact, anything with that show? Obviously, what you guys have written has been represented on the show, but do you guys actually get any? Have you been on set? Have you guys been able to do anything with that show?
I've been on the set of Riverdale. I got to meet the actors. It was really cool. I didn't meet the guy who plays Kevin, unfortunately, but I met most of the cast and crew. And I met Luke Perry, who was unfortunately just passed, but he was a really great guy. So nice. But yeah, no, I've been on the set. It's been cool. A lot of the characters that I've created for Archie have popped up on Riverdale because I've done other characters, other than Kevin. Some of the more like secondary characters, like Jughead's sister Jellybean, I created. Ginger Lopez, who's going to be on the new Katie Keene show, I created. So I've seen characters that I've created in the last 25 years pop up as like secondary characters, which is really cool.
So how do you feel? Do you feel like sorry, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you feel like a proud papa? What's it like to see and like, my gosh,
that was my question too.
Like,
because it's such an impact to such a, Archie's been around for 70 years and you have a footprint in it. I mean, that's got to feel amazing.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It is great because I was always a huge Archie fan, and I think being a fan first makes you appreciate it more. Mm-hmm. I got in there because of my love for the characters, and it's been it's been a good, I think I've been good for Archie, and Archie's been good for me. It's been a real good, relationship.
Well, and here's again, we have this show, this crowdfunding comics show. We're getting a lot of people come in that actually want to do their own Kickstarters, their own Indiegogos to launch their own books, and they come asking for advice. And there's a lot of questions already for you on the chat, and we'll get to them. But that's a lesson right there, is to write a character. If you're going to write a character, write who this character is rather than what this character is. Don't go for the quick buck or the easy sell, because the readers are smarter than that. They have so many choices now, and especially with the internet and stuff, and they want to be engaged in the characters. Yeah. And you did it, and again, you see these events pop up, or these gimmicks pop up, or things like that, and they just fall by the wayside. Everyone sees it, but then you come in and you create a lasting character, one of the most popular characters of the past decade or more, and pretty great, man. You did it right, and it's encouraging as a fan, because we're all fans. We all got into this because we're fans,
right?
And it's really encouraging. you know, and it's refreshing and it's good to see him. And you know, and I don't know if people thought you might be a troublemaker at first coming in there, but again, look at that, you're selling it, you know, you're selling out books, and it's great. I think it's fantastic.
I was more of a troublemaker when I was younger, because when I was younger at Archie, we were always trying to get away with stuff that we couldn't get away with.
Oh, but, really?
I used to work on a book called Jughead's Diner like 25 years ago, and we were always trying to slip in like sex jokes and little double entendres and stuff in there, which we got away with. So, I mean, I think I got that out of my system early on. So I wasn't trying to get away with anything anymore. But early on, we had a lot of fun, and we would try and get in little things in there.
Oh, that's great. Now, was there an Archie czar, like an editor-in-chief that back then that would catch you? You know, you can't do that. You know, or were they?
Would hit your hand with the ruler.
Yeah.
Victor Gorelick. Yeah.
Really?
He's been my editor since I started. He's still there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Victor would always. Yeah. I mean, I've Victor's been great to me, but he's not afraid to tell you what he thinks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Little bit naughty, but
yeah.
Anyway,
so. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Billy.
No, I just want to say, you know, as also, you know, I went to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, and you know, I majored in fashion illustration, so I always love that too, how Archie always stayed with the times, and so great to see the dress of, especially Betty and Veronica. Some of the stuff with the guys like Reggie would look a little weird, you know, almost like caricatures of what the 60s looked like back in the 60s. But I thought what was really cool is that you really made a brilliant move giving Betty and Veronica Spectacular a real modern fashion magazine style revamp to it.
Oh, right.
And I think that really, yeah.
That was like the first thing I ever was sort of really proud of, because I'd been at Archie at that point for, you know, probably 15 years. And I'd always been encouraged to try and draw like Dan DeCarlo. But, you know, when you're encouraged to draw like one person specifically, it sort of stifles you a little bit. So then at that point, I was just starting to draw in my own style and do what I wanted to do more. And that was one of the first projects. Basically, the book was going to be canceled. So they basically said to me, revamp the book because it's going to get canceled anyway. So having the freedom to do what I wanted really let me kind of change the look of what we were doing. And then that was sort of like where I really, I think, kind of latched into the style that I pretty much use now.
Yeah.
But it took a while. It took a while because, you know, at first, the very first time I was at Archie, you know, they wanted everybody just to draw Dan DeCarlo because Dan sold so well.
Yeah.
And it has such beautiful artwork. They wanted people to do that style, and it was a great way to learn. But there's only one Dan DeCarlo too, and I didn't, you know, you don't want to just draw like someone else.
Yeah.
The whole life.
So that was your Amazing Fantasy 15.
I guess so.
Yeah. So Nile, I'm sorry, Nile.
No problem. But since, you know, this is, you know, we have an hour-long show, and we're all about crowdfunding comics. So let's get into Die Kitty Die. I mean, you've had 3 campaigns on Kickstarter. All of them exceeded, you know, over 200% funding. Let's get a little bit. And who is Kitty, and why must she die?
Well, Kitty is, and I'll go back a little bit more. Fernando Ruiz and I are partners on Die Kitty Die, and we were going to Dallas Comic-Con. This is in 2015, I guess, and we were just starting to talk about, we wanted to just do something that was our own, and we were thinking about characters, and we thought, well, we came up with this we wanted to do a character about a witch, something that was like kind of sexy and fun, something that kind of poked fun at comics a little bit, because we do sort of poke fun at like every company. But the premise of Die Kitty Die is she's a witch, and she's being published by this company for many years, and her sales have plummeted. She's not selling anymore. So they're like, what are we going to do? So they decided to kill her off, because of course that's the first go-to for comic book companies, is you kill off, you know, a character. Of course, it's a little difficult in this arena, because Kitty's basically a real character too, who exists amongst the publishers. So think of like Roger Rabbit a little bit. Like the cartoon characters sort of are real in the world. So the comic company, in trying to figure out ways to kill her off, decide to go to their roster of existing characters. So they have a whole roster of other characters that have been long gone and canceled. So they're like, whoever can kill off Kitty will get their own book, or whoever kill off Kitty will rise to popularity again.
Right.
So it becomes like a race to kill off the character of Kitty from the other unpopular characters. So the first issue is sort of like a mystery as to like who's doing it, who's trying to kill her off. And we kind of wrap it up in the first issue. But we have a guy who's like kind of like a sleazy publisher who's trying to take advantage of her. And that's where a lot of the Harvey characters came in, because we decided to make a lot of these like characters bringing like sort of like characters reminiscent of the Harvey characters.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So that was basically the premise of the first series, and we did 4 issues that would be collected into a trade. And yeah, we didn't know what to budget it at, so we did 25,000, and that was kind of a gamble because we were like, maybe we may not make it, we may not make 5,000, who knows?
Yeah, sure.
But we were lucky, and I think the first one we funded at about 57, and so we were able to do all these extras, like we were able to make the book a hardcover. We were able to add in a special, like a summer special and a Christmas special. We were able to add in really, really good stretch goals. And as anybody who does Kickstarters know, you do stretch goals to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And it just kept growing, and it just kept, bam.
Yeah, we were funded in about a week. So then we had 3 more weeks to just sort of keep raising money. And we did a lot of original art. We were like, selling the, original art, the original covers through the Kickstarter, who has really successful Kickstarter. So she was like our go-to. And
she too with Menage a Trois.
Right. Yeah, she's doing fantastic with her series. So we went to her for a lot of questions, and she answered a lot of ours. And of course, it was our first one, we still made mistakes. We made some, blunders that we learned the first time that we didn't do the second time.
Yeah.
Like we offered a couple of stretch goals that were, a little pricier than we had planned. We had like a $5,000 stretch goal. We're like, you know what? We'll offer lanyards.
Yeah.
Cool. How expensive could that be?
Yeah.
Lanyards were like $3,000. They were ridiculously expensive for the nice lanyards we wanted. So we live and learn.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to ask you we have some standard questions that, if you don't mind, we'll be asking you about mistakes, advice, things like that. But I'm sorry, Nile. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So now, especially nowadays, right, you've got a lot of people heading towards, they're all funneling now into the crowdfunding arena. And you went with Kickstarter, but also Indiegogo is out there. Is there any reason you guys didn't go with Indiegogo, or did you think Kickstarter might have been the safer bet? Kind of give me your thoughts on that, because there's a loyalty to both sides, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
We thought about Indiegogo. I think the reason I went with Kickstarter is just because I had known more people of my friends that had been doing Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Indiegogo, actually, I think I was considering that because with Indiegogo, you don't have to hit a funding goal. Mm-hmm. Basically, Indiegogo, what you make is what you get.
Yeah.
So there would have been a little bit more of a safety factor with Indiegogo, whereas with Kickstarter, if you don't meet your goal, your campaign is not met.
Yeah. So basically, you and Fernando figure it out, right? You determine this is what you want to do on an airplane, and then you guys basically just roll up your sleeves and say, "By George, this is going to be a Kickstarter." It's almost like the Little Rascals, like, "Hey, let's put on a show in the barn."
Yeah.
And were you afraid to do it? Like, anxious?
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary because you don't know how it's going to go. I mean, we had done a lot of sketches, till we got the character planned out. And then we sat there and we mapped out the 4 issues, how it would stretch, how we'd plan it out. And that's how and when we write each issue too, we basically both we usually go to like a diner or something, and we sit there and we take notes. We split up the writing on each issue, and it seems to work out fine. We just sort of like go. Our notes seem to just kind of mesh together well, and we each split up the drawing too. And but yeah, just we just dove in. We made sure that we had enough art to show, which is one thing I would advise to people is, we had a few covers done. We had maybe 6 or 8 interior pages done with also some sketches of other characters. People could get a feel for the other characters. So you want people to go in. You don't have to have the whole book done, but you want people to have a feel for what they're going to get.
Yeah, so basically, but isn't it wonderful? Like you have this anxious moment, right? And you hope that people will validate your creativity, and then bam, it happens, and it's got to be the greatest feeling in the world, right? That holy smokes, these people have, they're literally taking money, and we're all comic fans. It's so personal, and it just seems to keep growing, and more fans are gravitating towards that. An old pro with Archie books and all, with your Archie comics, but man, you know what I mean? There she is, right
your
there.
baby right there.
And that's the nice thing too, because the great thing about doing this for Kickstarter is you have total control.
Yeah.
Whether you fail or you succeed, you have control, and that's one thing that really was attractive to us. We didn't have to worry about showing it to an editor or getting it revised. We were the editors basically. Mm-hmm. And it really succeeds or fails upon your own what you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. So that was exciting. Well, once it was funded, and once it is a very intimate relationship, because when you're doing the Kickstarter, and I'm really hands-on with the Kickstarter. I'm the one that's sitting there. I answer all the questions and I go back and forth. So people can contact me directly with questions. And during Kickstarter, that's all it is people asking questions.
And you're selling. You're out there. So you're not only a cartoonist. You're not only a penciler, an inker, a writer, an editor, a production manager, an advertising guy. You're finding the best printers and all. You're also a salesman. You're out there. And you're literally doing 10 full-time jobs in 30 days or so.
The month of the Kickstarter is like 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So it's insane. Yeah. I mean, the relief you have when it's over with is great, because it's like a sigh of relief. Because in addition to answering people's questions all the time, people have questions about how to add on products, mm-hmm. how to bid. You're also having to, promote it every day. You're having to just spread it on social media, have friends spread it, because, after about the first several days, you have the dreaded plateau begins.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter plateau. So you have to think of lots of creative ways to keep it going. And that's where stretch goals and incentives and original art, all those things come in.
Yeah, and it's fun because we've been doing that as well. Is like, what do we need next? And again, a lot of people want they want different levels, because you set your levels, and they want, could you add this? Like, I guess so. And then next thing you know, you got 50 levels, and you're like, and then people get confused by it, or they want to change their order. So I guess my advice, something that I've learned with doing with the new book with Zombie Sama, is keep them simple, guys. Keep it simple. And you can always expand on that. Don't start so big. If you do find, like Dan says, let's put up a page. That's easy. Let's put up a page, or let's add this level. Maybe one every couple of days or something to get more people interested. And also, like what we did is that we've so we've got some crazy requests, but we've got some really interesting requests that things we never thought of, that the fans would say, how about this? Like,
like
that's
that
not a
meat
bad
and
idea.
cheese platter was a good idea.
Yeah, it was that, and the fruit cake.
Wow.
But so, Dan, can you tell us about the very mysterious Fernando Ruiz?
Fernando, yes. Fernando is another, also, he's a longtime Archie artist too. And he teaches at the Kubert School. And he's, we've worked together on many, we worked together at Archie a lot, because we'd always go in on the same freelance days, and we'd talk, and we always had our same love of, movies, TV shows, and comics, and all that stuff. But actually, we never actually got to work on a project together at Archie. Or there may have been 1 or 2 stories I wrote that he drew and we crossed over a little bit, but we always wanted to work just specifically on like one thing together. So this was a way that we were able to just really go all out and work on something that was, you know, totally our own. And Fernando, again, he's like a jack of all trades too. He is a really good writer and artist, and he can do it all too. So it was, you know, we worked really well together. And yeah, he's still teaching at the Kubert School. You know, he's still doing that, and he works on a lot of stuff. He's doing stuff for Dynamite and a lot of other companies. I had a very short teaching career at the Kubert School. I taught there for about 4 years, which I enjoyed, but I don't have the teaching. I wasn't born to be a teacher.
I share that gene too.
I didn't get the teaching bug. No.
So that answers one question out there.
Also, I just want to throw in, we've got a lot of people watching. Could you guys give Dan Parent a like, please? We got a lot of people watching, but we have 15 likes. So someone throw a like out to Dan
and share.
And share too, please, if you don't mind. One of the best guys in comics.
Yes.
So
let's get 100 likes.
Yes. So all right, Nile.
Yeah, actually, I want to get to TJ James' question, if you don't mind. He says, hey, guys, I would be interested in knowing if Dan and Fernando have any interest in creating a Die Kitty Die style science fiction book, not necessarily like Afterlife with Archie, but maybe a space opera.
Well, that's funny.
It's a loaded question.
It's funny that he asked that question because we're going to be doing another Die Kitty Die series next year. Mm-hmm. And it is set in outer space. So there you go.
Oh, far out.
Wow.
So that was a very apropos question.
TJ James is a mind reader.
Yeah. Any crossover plans? Do you have any crossover plans?
Not right now, unless it came up. You know, if it came up that you know, another company, we did do a crossover with Captain Canuck from Chapter House, because Chapter House was publishing our book afterwards. So we had Kitty with Captain Canuck. But no, nothing right now. Right now, you know, we're waiting till next year to do the next Kickstarter because, like, we should have probably, you know, there was the book and then there was the statue, and we did them both in the same Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So now that phase 2 of the Kickstarter is the figure, the statue. So that'll be our current thing that will keep us going through the summertime, probably.
Do you have a sample of the statue?
I certainly do.
Would you mind if we showed it to our audience out there and maybe give them a big screen, Nile?
Yeah.
This is the statue here.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Based on yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Big
wow.
Screen.
Back up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it's based on the Halloween cover from our first issue variant. And yeah, we're really happy. We're really happy with the job they did. This is the prototype, and it's shipping in from China pretty soon. So the box is done, the statue's done, and we'll be getting them in however long it takes from China.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and that cover too. It's got a real, you know, Vargas inspiration to it. And also I love all the starlets. They would dress them up and doing those calendar things like Janet Leigh, you know, and I think Marilyn Monroe did it. And man, so many of them, and a lot of them are really adorable witch costumes, you know, that 1940s, early 50s witch pinup, you know, for Halloween with the broom and the pumpkins. And I love them. I love those.
Yeah.
So I love the nostalgia.
For sure.
Yeah.
We were really lucky too with the first issue. We were able to get Darwin Cook did the first issue of our hardcover, and that was like pretty bittersweet because it was, you know, right towards the end of his life, and you know, he was kind of sick when he did it, but the fact that he was still willing to do it for us was pretty amazing. He was a really great guy.
Yeah, great friend, a true, you know, consummate professional, and he loved it. You know, he really was a real comics fan, and
he was.
And you know, I remember one time. Yep, I remember one time he told me, we were talking about pitching to the majors, you know, and he said, and he was really sad, and he goes, you know, one of the things, Billy, you got to know is that we love their characters far more than they do. You know, because, you know, I would pitch something, you know, another Sergeant Rock story or something, and if it's rejected or put off for, you know, oh, we'll get to it later, it hurts you because you love these, you know, you put a lot of thought behind it and you want to do it. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's missed. So
he sure is. He sure is.
So what I'll do, guys, we're gonna head over to our desktop screen. And if you don't mind, Dan, I'm just going to air the video from your previous Kickstarter, the most recent one you guys had, just to give everyone a little better take on Die Kitty Die and what she's all about.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dan Parent, and this is
Fernando Ruiz.
And we're here to promote the Kickstarter for the next Die Kitty Die series, Die Kitty Die Heaven and Hell. This is the next series. This is the third series of Die Kitty Die. It takes place after Die Kitty Die Hollywood or Bust, which continued into this year's Free Comic Book Day book, which was Die Kitty Die I Love You to Death.
The Free Comic Book Day special is a nice little bridge between Die Kitty Die Hollywood or Bust and the new Die Kitty Die Heaven and Hell. So it's a good issue. If you've never read Die Kitty Die before, it's a great introduction to the series. But it's a nice extra bonus for those who have been following to lead us into this new series, which we've been having a great time putting together.
So in this series, basically, you know, Kitty's dead. So we sort of go on her adventures to Heaven and Hell. And she's also trying to find out her killer, because she was killed in the end of the last series, and the goal is to find her killer. So we have a little bit of that mystery going on. Thanks a lot for everybody who has supported us, because, you know, we see you at conventions, and you bring your kitty books, and we sign them, and we you know, we're happy that the relationship has been going so well with you guys, and the goal is to keep it going.
Everybody's been really, really kind to Die Kitty Die, and we really appreciate it, because as we've said, we really couldn't do this without everybody's very kind and generous support. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Nice. So there you have it, guys.
yeah, it's hot.
It's hot back there.
Yeah, my friend Justin Salvato, he's a good friend of mine. He does our videos, so he's really cool. So give a shout out to Justin.
There you go, Justin. Well done.
Who drew the Bewitched style cover?
I did that one.
You did? Oh, fantastic. Yes. I love that.
Adorable.
Cover.
Yeah, adorable.
Thanks.
I'm just scrolling through here for these guys, see what you got. So, Dan, let me ask you a question, all right? So, say you're at a con or something, you meet a kid, you start talking, you get along, and the kid says, hey, you know what? I am going to start a Kickstarter. I'm trying to get things set. What's the best advice? If you could put anything together, what is the best one single piece of advice you would give him or her?
Make sure your project is well thought out, and you have enough to show about it, enough to show of it. Like, just, you know, some people go on Kickstarters with these very vague presentations. Mm-hmm. I would say just have one really outstanding piece of art that's going to grab you, because, you know, that little banner ad is pretty small.
Yep.
And it should be it should really pop out at you, because otherwise people are just going to click right over it. Because if you look, 20 or 30%, or not that much, maybe like 15% of your sales come right from the Kickstarter site. Mm-hmm. People go on Kickstarter to bid on projects, so you really need to stand out from the other things on Kickstarter.
So presentation is key.
Yeah. Well, first impressions are everything. It seems. It really is.
Yep.
And then Dan, so I've kind of, you know, I've been a fan of your work for quite some time, and, you know, having you on the show has been great, and, you know, I dug even deeper and stuff, and I have to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Are you a man that believes in fate? Because you have been with Archie for so long. Was there anything, like, growing up as a child that you kind of felt like this is the direction I'm going to end up going? Because it's almost like a perfect storm. You know, I think you have, you know, at least from my eyes and what I've seen, it's just kind of the perfect story of you know, going into school and then getting the career in school and then continuing on 30 plus years?
I think it's sort of like a perfect storm, like you said. I mean, the things have to sort of align at the right time. I think at the time when I was graduating from school, comics were a very different business then. There was a lot more openings, a lot more hiring going on. Archie was publishing, you know, 30, 40 titles a month at the time.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a different time for sure. So that combined with the fact that it was really when my first year of Kubert School when I sort of really started to think about my style and going for Archie, because even though I love the superhero stuff, my stuff was always a little more cartoony and simple. And but it wasn't like, you know, Disney or real Bigfoot cartoony either. So the Archie stuff just seemed to have like that semi-real style, which I thought would work well for me. So yeah, so I think it was in Kubert School when I really started thinking about you know, the Archie model. And again, it just, you know, timing plays a big part. You know, it really does. And
yeah, but it's also cool that, you know, most guys are doing, you know, Buscema or George Perez, and there you have Archie samples, and then just by the way, you know, oh, here comes, you know, the guy's looking for Archie artists. So it's you know, it's fate.
Yeah, no, it worked out great. And
yeah, it's a passion. Your passion for it, you know.
There was like two of us, myself and Bill Gollier, one of my other classmates. We were like the only two that really were into Archie, and we both worked for Archie because you know, we showed the eagerness to do it. And yeah, it worked out great. And I also was when I was in my last year, Hallmark used to come to the school every year too, and I was also offered a job at Hallmark. So I had to sort of weigh out the options. Do I want to move to Kansas City and have a very secure job with really good benefits, or do I want to, you know, do comics, which is what I always wanted to do? So of course it was kind of a no-brainer. To get into comics. Yeah,
for us. Yeah. Most people would go the other way, but that's why I'm not surprised at all that you did the same thing.
There were you know, some people you know, people said to me like, I would have gone with Hallmark because Hallmark's like this big company, but if you want to get into comics and that's what you've gone to school for, you're gonna go for comics.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. And I've got one more question, then I'll stop hogging.
No,
Dan. So I love. There's so many great things with Archie. And actually, what I really loved and I've been seeing the past few years are all these awesome kind of crossovers. You know, Archie meets Batman 66, Archie versus Sharknado, Archie versus Predator. How do you guys come up with these awesome crossover ideas? And secondly, do you have one that's in your head that's like, I need to get into print, or something that you really want to push if you could share it?
Well, yeah, I've done my share of crossovers. Archie Meets Kiss was like the first big one I did, and that one still sells really well when I'm at conventions and stuff. Archie Sharknado, I actually was behind that one because we had met the guys from Sharknado at Comic-Con, and we kind of had to really pitch it hard. And Archie Batman 66 was really like probably the most fun I've ever had. Yeah. That was so much fun, and Billy, you did a great cover for that.
Yeah, I had it. I think they're such a great company, and to gotten that opportunity, and it's like bucket lists, and I got to do, you know, Archie and split with Adam West, and I got to draw my son as Archie. So the Archie Andrews, you know, my Archie Andrews is my son William, who came in before and gave me a hug, and oh yeah, he milked that for a long time. He has a comic in his locker at school. He was Archie for Halloween. He got the orange spray paint or whatever, the hair paint, and put it and got the jacket and everything like that. And I think he's got a bunch of. I think he gained some Instagram, you know, followers for that too, for posting that.
That's great.
And then with the Predator too, and someone asked about the Archie Predator crossover, that they thought, what a brilliant idea, and they were so surprised by it. And I haven't read that. I haven't seen it. I just did a cover for it too, for part 2.
Right.
And I did a little homage, you know, of a caked Archie, you know, with the spear, and here comes the Predator walking, and he sees a little dummy, but you know, and I threw the, you know, instead of the head, it's Art, you know, it's Jughead's little hat, his little crown, and my question was, you know, but where is Jughead? So, but I'm like, what? Archie versus Predator 2? Yeah, I'd love to do that.
How fun are these crossovers?
Yeah.
Though? I mean, it's so cool.
Yeah, they are. They're a lot of fun. And right now we're doing I'm doing the covers for these. We're doing Betty and Veronica meet Red Sonja and Vampirella.
Oh,
nice,
that's awesome.
For Dynamite.
That's
So I'm doing the covers on those, and that's fun. And I know there's a couple other crossovers in the works that they haven't announced yet, but they're going to announce them pretty soon. I always wanted to do more of the DC crossovers. I wanted to do Archie and meets the Legion of Superheroes.
Ooh, that'd be great.
So I have to,
that'd be cool.
You know, I'd love to make that happen if that's possible. Archie and Superman, you know, Archie could be Jimmy Olsen, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's be a done deal, you know.
Well, I think San Diego, you should, you know, I don't know, grab someone, take him to the bar, maybe Dan or something, and say, Dan, I got a great idea. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I mean, how could they go wrong with it? It's a home run. And I mean, what's so cool about your crossovers? It's like they're like the ones from the 70s. You know what I mean? You know, like Muhammad Ali meets, you know, fight Superman. That's what it captures, that spirit. That where did this come from? You know what I mean? So it's well, the best of luck to you. And if you guys do it, I want to do a cover, please.
For sure.
Just getting back to it, because we're running low on time. If you don't mind spending a few minutes with us, we're going to get into some fun stuff. But I'm curious about with you and Fernando, or just you, like, what's your writing process? Like, do you guys sit down together and do an overview and you do a page-by-page breakdown? Or do you write a full script and then you work from your script? Or do you work in the old Marvel style where you actually draw the book and then you dialogue it later? Like, what's... Like for the Die Kitty Die, what do you guys use for that?
Well, first what we do is if it's like, say it's 4 issues, we do like a general plot for each issue. We have knowing a clear beginning and end of the storyline. Then we sit down, and then when we do like issue 1, we'll sit down and we'll each plot out the 4 chapters. And basically we just do a really tight plot of each chapter, and then we split the chapters up. So we know how each chapter is going to begin and how it's going to end. And then as far as the dialoguing goes, we do that on our own when we're actually writing. So we're going from like a pretty tight plot to the dialogue, and then we just write it and draw it. Nice. And then we have one. Rich Kozlowski usually inks both of our stuff, because he kind of ties it in with that style of his. And but yeah, it's we go to diners and we'll sit there for a few hours. And we'll sit there and just take up space at the diner for a few hours and just take all of our notes and go back and forth. And then usually that's how we do each issue. So
you guys live near each other? You and Fernando live near each other?
We're about an hour apart. So I'm in PA and he's in New Jersey.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right, so now we know about the statue. That's phase 2 of your Kickstarter, the 2018 Kickstarter. Will we see any more DKD? And that seems what all the cool kids are saying.
All the cool kids, yeah.
All the cool kids are using that. So I'm going to start using those terms. Okay, DP? Let's start talking like that. Yes. Will we be seeing her again, you know, Kitty come later on 2019 or maybe 2020?
We're looking at early 2020. Because
Excellent.
this year it's going to be about getting the statues out to everybody, getting that taken care of, the remaining Kickstarter commissions, and we're going to do a collection of the first 3 trades. So whether that's going to be this year or next year, we're not sure, but we are going to collect the whole first 3 hardcovers into one book.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah. Excellent. So, okay, so we know we talked about your your advice. I know you gave us a couple of issues of advice. One, get that really strong image. You know, get that home run image, that first impression. Is there anything else? You know,
set a reasonable goal.
Okay.
Because some people do go on and they set these pretty astronomical goals, and I would say if you're I was just telling this to a friend of mine who's going to start one. If you're unsure and you're about asking for 20,000 or 25,000 and you want for like a 4 or 5 issues, start with 1 issue. Just kickstart 1 issue that you can ask for like maybe $5,000, $7 grand, and then take it from there. Because if that goes well, then you can continue on, and you're more likely to fund that than going for 25 grand.
Sure.
So I would say that if you're starting out, then you might want to start slow. Fernando and I were a little more confident because we had been at Archie for so long that we knew we had like a pretty strong following. So that's probably why we decided to go with the initial 25 grand. But for somebody new at it, I might suggest starting a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Sound advice.
Now, just a quick question, even for you and Billy. So what do you think is a good method for anyone starting out with a Kickstarter too? You know, what's a good methodology for your budget? Like, where do you come up with that number?
Well, fortunately, like for us, for Fernando and I, we were writing and drawing. Mm-hmm. So we always knew we could pay ourselves after.
Yeah.
Fortunately, when we hit our goal of 25, we were able to pay ourselves.
Yeah.
A reasonable page rate. But we weren't going to be paying ourselves until we hit our goal. Mm-hmm. But the first thing out of the gate, you want to make sure you can pay your letterers, your inkers, and your colorists.
Yes.
Because, you know, so that's written into the budget right away. So we worked at a page rate with we had Glenn Whitmore on coloring, he's really good. Rich Kozlowski on inking, Janice Chang letters. So we had them set up with their page rates, so they have to be paid. You know, first.
Well, it is a business, and that's and my advice. And remember, everybody out there, we all have this joy of comics, but it is a business. It is a business, and you guys have to keep that in your heads. That, again, as Dan said, don't ask for a $25,000 stretch goal. Really be realistic with your stretch goal and ask for what it would take for you to make this book. Right. And that's really the bottom line. So go the lower the better, because, right, Dan, if you hit your goal the first day, the first week, the first couple of days, Kickstarter takes notice of that, and Indiegogo, and they push you up to a project they like, and they push you up. So it is better to be more realistic with yourself, because it is scary. It's scary enough to throw your creativity out there and to ask people to support it, but it's a hell of a lot easier once you get that goal early, as opposed to be waiting to the last hour of the last campaign, of the last day.
Absolutely.
Try to get that goal of all that hard work you've put into for months. Yeah. So,
no, absolutely. And once you get a project we like status by Kickstarter, you start to notice you get a little boost in your pledges, because you're becoming more visible to people that are going on the Kickstarter page. So it's definitely a plus. Yeah, the earlier you hit your goal, it's just a bigger sigh of relief. Because I remember once we hit the goal after a week, we didn't have to worry about getting. We knew we were going to get funded. Yeah. So anything after that is just a plus after that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nile, our illustrious friend here had mentioned mistakes, didn't he?
Yes. So going through, I mean, you've had 3 Kickstarters go on. So, I mean, were there any mistakes that you can go through? Things that you will never do again?
Yes. A big mistake we made was when the first Kickstarter, our Kickstarter ended in December. So we were thinking, it takes about a month to get paid from Kickstarter, or a few weeks to get paid. So we're like, we're not going to get paid until you have earned that income the day the Kickstarter ends. Mm-hmm. So when we I got a 1099 almost at the same time we got paid for the previous year. And then I was like, it looks bad because you've earned all this money and you haven't spent it yet.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
So I didn't know what to do, and stupidly, even our accountant didn't really know what to do with it. So we actually claimed it as income the first year, which was a mistake, because then when we became incorporated the next year, we would have done it totally differently. We would have had to claim it as income. So that was just like an accounting thing that we didn't plan on, and it worked out okay. But it was artists are not good with accounting. That's one thing I've learned.
Indeed, and that's why I married a smart woman.
Get a good accountant. But that was one of the mistakes. And then there was the other little things along the way were with stretch goals. Sometimes we would have a stretch goal, and the extra $5,000 we were making in that stretch goal, we were spending $7,000 to get to that amount. So we learned to you know, if you're gonna have like the figure, the statue, was a big stretch goal, and I think we made sure we hit 40 grand before we could even offer the stretch goal. But early on, we were, like I said, we were artificially, like, you know, we did a Kitty Halloween special that cost us more than the stretch goal was.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. So the statue was a stretch goal. It wasn't its own level.
Well, it was what it was. The way we did it was, we did it as a stretch goal that we were offering it at like a discount for the people on the Kickstarter. So we couldn't obviously, you know, say, you know, if we reach this goal, you're going to get a free statue. Yeah. But we offered it at a lower rate. But we were able to produce it because the money from that stretch goal, basically, you know, when you do a figure, just to make the mold is like a fortune.
Yeah.
So basically, that stretch goal funding just basically paid us to do the mold of the statue, and then we were able to offer it as we went along. And then we added a reward level where one of the reward levels was a statue. So you get like a statue and you get a book.
Oh wow. Well, reward level.
Yeah, and we're over now, Dan. We're having fun, so I hope you don't mind just a few more minutes. But
yeah,
you've given us over an hour of wonderful advice, and I know you had mentioned Giselle, and maybe she's the person. But what's the best advice you've gotten from someone else? You know, and that you could maybe pass on to those out there that are listening. You know, like what's the best advice you've gotten?
Kickstarter wise, or just generally?
Yeah, or just yeah.
The best Kickstarter advice. Oh, geez. Again, I would have to say just budget. You know, it really, because it's so easy to just ask for money and not plan out where it's gonna come from.
Yeah.
I would say budget everything out and then add 20% to that, because there's going to be unexpected expenses that are going to pop up.
That's really good advice. Yeah. I'm gonna write that down myself, actually. So, man, fantastic. TJ James asked a question, and I don't know the answer to this. Is there any way to describe your project to enhance your search hits when people are generally searching for? I don't know.
I would say, you know, when you're sharing on social media, just try and get as many people as you can get to share it. Especially like on Twitter, if I can get like, or, you know, like now we can use the hashtag DieKittyDie, and now that'll generate a few hits.
Oh, good.
But basically, really just, Facebook, we got most of our hits came from Facebook. Most of our business was generated on Facebook.
Yeah.
So shared it very heavily on there. And also, I would also advise you to create a separate Facebook page for the project. So in addition to promoting it on your own Facebook page, like we have a DieKittyDie Facebook page also. And that works as like another source of promotion. So I would suggest, it's free to set up another Facebook page. So that's another thing I would suggest.
Yeah, sure. Now, I got a question that I can't believe I forgot to ask. Where did you get the name from? I mean, where did Kitty come from, the name Kitty? I understand that. I understand the premise of it, that if we kill Kitty, you know, these other characters would be popular. But where did you get the name Kitty instead of, like, say, Mary Die?
We were just sitting down, writing down names on a pad. You know, just whatever, rambling off names, and DieKittyDie, we wrote it down, and it just, whatever it was, it just clicked.
It is fantastic. It is a great, great name.
It is.
It really is.
It really catches too. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it was a good attention getting name, and just click with us for whatever reason.
Yeah. So Dan, we've talked a lot about, you know, crowdfunding and stuff, but let's bring it in. Let's get a little close here. Let's get a little intimate. So Dan, besides all your hard work and the years you've put in the blood, sweat, and tears in creating this and adding your footprint to this marvelous universe, what do you do outside of comics? I mean, if someone said to you, hey, Dan, this weekend, comics out the window. Go do something for yourself. Do something you love. What are you going to do to relax or just get away from it all?
I watch a lot of TV. I work out a lot. I go to the gym every day. I walk. I like to go outside a lot. I've got about 50,000 things DVR'd that I haven't gotten to yet. and then traveling all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, there's not enough hours in the day, you know, for me. You know, like I said, I've got books I have to read. I've got books that have been sitting by my bed for the last 6 months. So,
yeah. So, what are you watching on television?
Oh my God. Well, right now I'm in the middle of Sabrina.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
But I just watched. What did I just watch? I was watching American Horror Story. I was watching that. I was watching. What did I just watch on Netflix? Now, of course, I can't think of anything. I was watching the Fire Festival specials on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, those documentaries. Yeah.
Yes, I had to watch the Hulu one and the Netflix one. I was like totally fascinated with that whole thing. Any kind of music documentary I like. I liked I was watching the Motley Crue one.
Okay.
Yes.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really a big Motley Crue fan, but the story was, you know, fascinating. But yeah, I watch, you know, and I like music. You know, it's like
the one on Leonard Skinner was really sad. You know, if you saw that.
Was it like a movie or a documentary?
No, that was a documentary. That was just a documentary on them, a real documentary. And it's like, oh man, just like what a bunch of cool guys. And they were like playing Little League baseball, and then they said we should start a band, and they started this band, and they were together for so long, and then that, you know, horrible crash. And,
oh right, yeah.
You know, in '78 or '79, whatever it was, like, oh my God, it was so sad. And they played Freebird at the end. You're like, oh my God. Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah.
Well, I remember I used to love Behind the Music on VH1. Like, I'd watch every one of those. I didn't care which band they were. I watched every one of them. Was interesting. I thought, you know, even if it was music I didn't like.
I think documentaries just capture you. I like it. So sometimes it could be like something that's really out of the box of what you like, but you just get so stuck in like the real story. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why I think I really like the
I watch. I mean, Netflix is great for documentaries, and it's often subjects I don't even like have any interest in generally. But they grab you.
Did you watch the Flat Earth one?
I did.
Netflix?
Holy
did you?
Shit.
That was
God.
That was tough, but I couldn't stop watching. I had to finish it.
Someone had told me about it, and I was in for the whole thing. I was in for the whole thing.
Speaking of this whole flat Earth thing, though, I do wonder.
It's you scamp.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you believe in UFOs, Bigfoot, or ghosts?
I heard you asking this question on one of your other ones.
We're always going to ask
it's that. Building. We're asking everyone because it's building up.
Do I believe in UFOs, ghosts, or what?
Or Bigfoot?
Or Bigfoot. I don't really think I believe in Bigfoot. I do. UFOs, you know, I believe there's something out there. I've never seen a UFO. Ghosts, I don't know. I've never had an experience. I have friends who have seen ghosts, so they say. So I'm going by what they say. But I mean, I won't say I don't believe in them. I just have no experience with them. I like Casper. So.
Nile, you have to ask me that question, okay? You have to interview me. I want to show you interview me, and I want you to ask me that question because I got some. And my wife, Debbie, too.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, one night we were just chatting about that, and it went like, I think like an hour passed by. I'm like, holy crap, it's like 1:30 in the morning.
We want to have a witching hour special with candles and stuff and just ask everybody, like, their, you know, just crazy ghost stories and UFO stories. And we were interviewing Mitch Breitweiser yesterday and Betty, and Mitch actually saw a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wait, because I'm like, what? And then I go, what? And he said something ran across the road that was like human form or like an ape or something in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, oh boy. Yes.
Yeah. Like, and Mark Wheatley, I asked him that, and he's going, oh. He's like, oh yeah, I was actually UFOs. I was on a UFO documentary telling my story. It's just like, it's a fun question to ask because it's crazy because you talk to somebody, you don't realize you ask that question. It's like, oh yeah, a ghost lifted me up off my roof and threw me across the yard. And it's like, what? I mean, it's crazy the stories people tell you.
I wish I had a good story, but I know.
All right, Dan. Well, I got a question for you. This is my question now, and nothing sad, you know. But what's the scariest thing to ever happen to you? And like I said, I don't mean you're driving and you saw a dog get hit by a car or something like Do you have anything really scary ever happen to you?
Oh, not. You mean like supernatural scary kind of thing?
Like, is anything scary? You know, like someone repelled. Mitch last night was in a graveyard where a whole bunch of oyster shells in the middle of Arkansas were on the ground around the graves, and they said that witches do that they found out later on, and they were walking on these, and then they saw people chasing them with, you know, and they were in the middle of the woods, and they all ran away with lights and stuff, but it was like a real deliverance thing or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had any real life scary experiences. All I remember is when I was a kid and I saw The Exorcist, I broke out in hives. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's, you know, that's just a movie, but.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan. And remember that, please, that hashtag #DieKittyDie. Again, Dan Parent, we love you. We think it's a real privilege for us to have you on. Thank you for staying an extra 15 minutes with us.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
And I mean, you gave us some incredible advice to people. I've learned a lot, so thank you.
Oh.
And I'm partly doing this because I'm selfish and I want to learn more. And I just love engaging in this conversation. And I don't know if we have a few questions to ask real quick. Nile, have you found any? Is Frank here? Has Frank found any questions? Because I haven't been really looking at those.
What's that?
You've asked them.
No, you've pretty much asked most of them.
Perfect. Well, my friend Dan Parent, he's on Twitter. He's on. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I always interrupt you. But guys, we do have in the comments for the video, we have links to Dan's website, to #DieKittyDie's website. Also, Dan, if you don't mind, we always do a crowdfunding call-outs, and we tonight we have a special call-out. If you don't mind hanging out for a couple more minutes, this is Wes Hartman's Savage Sasquatch #1, Bigfoot's Adventures in the Lost Space. So what we do with our call-outs, and hey, if you know a good project going on, you want to shoot us an email, say, hey, I know someone doing this great project, we'd love to get some exposure, let us know. So what we'll do is we're going to air the video for Wes's comic so that all the viewers can check out this awesome Kickstarter that just launched a couple days. There's 24 days to go. So guys, if you can, please check this out and help Wes reach his goal.
Hi, I'm Wes Hartman. I'm here to present to you Savage Sasquatch #1, the first issue in a 6-issue miniseries. It's an over-the-top action-adventure sci-fi story about Bigfoot in space. The legendary Sasquatch is no longer trudging his way through the Appalachian forest and finds himself way over his head and completely out of place. If he's to survive, he must come to grips with his new situation and his wildly alien surroundings. I liken it to Buck Rogers meets Big Trouble in Little China. You may be wondering, who's this guy? And can I trust him to complete this awesome comic? Great news! Issue 1 is 100% complete and ready to ship to the printer. As for me, for more than 15 years I have worked as an award-winning colorist for every major publisher and have helped put your favorite comic issues on shelves each and every month. In that time, I have also worked as a small press and independent comic creator, writer, and editor, and have produced a number of titles over the years. I've come to Kickstarter to ask you for your help in funding a large print run of issue #1. This book has been many, many years in the making, and you can help make it an actual reality. Oh, did I mention issue 1 is completely finished? And would you also like to know that issues 2 through 6 of volume 1 have been penciled and inked as well? And as soon as the campaign is over and successful, production will be completed on the following issues. This series is happening, and with your help, I can get this great comic in the hands of people all over the world, and you can get some pretty sweet swag too when you pre-order it. Thank you for checking out my comic, and thank you for your pledge and support. Don't forget, share the campaign with all your friends and followers.
That looks fun.
That looks great.
That looks real fun, and he's a great guy. Wes has colored a lot. Wes actually colored the alien, that's his newborn son.
My daddy's comic book.
Wes actually colored the Archie versus Predator cover that I did.
Oh, cool.
So one last question before we leave. We have Clayton Merwin wants to know, what was it like drawing Batman?
It was awesome because I get to draw Batman 66, which is even better.
Yeah.
And and then, as an Archie artist, to get to draw 6 issues of Batman 66 was incredible. So I loved it so much. And Jason Bone inked it, which made it even better.
Yeah,
He's
amazing.
Guy.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Best project I ever had at Archie.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're having fun. Like I said, all the much deserved success. You're an inspiration. Like I said, we love you. Everyone loves you. I mean, you're fantastic. So you've always got a smile on your face. You are, from what I've seen, you are got to be the most accessible and friendly and appreciative cartoonist out there towards your fans. You give everyone enough time, and it's a real privilege watching you interacting with them. And it's good to see someone who gets it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Nile.
Yep. Everyone, that's a wrap for tonight. Thanks for joining us. And Billy, do you want to let them know who we have going on this Thursday?
Yeah. Well, I want to. You let them know who we're going on Thursday, but I want to pitch my own thing, if I may.
Oh, of course.
We have Friday. My Zombie Sama Indiegogo is ending. It was our 14-day campaign. We're over $30,000, and it ends Friday at 11:59 p.m. So if you guys wouldn't mind going to that, if Frank could add a little link to that, because I haven't pitched it all week, and I'm doing all these shows, and I keep forgetting to pitch my own stuff. So it's by John Broly and myself. The book is all done. All the Indiegogo supporters, all the Kickstarter people who get the rewards that the Indiegogo people have pledged for, and it's kicking ass, and we're just so proud of this. We're over $60,000 with the book, and it's all done. Just finishing up the coloring, finishing up the lettering, the scripting, and can't wait to get that bad boy out to you. So thank you all from Team Zombie Sama. So if you may now with the floor with our super guest, our delightful, darling guest that we have tomorrow.
Yes, Thursday we have Sora Sung on. She has Carnal Confessions up, and her Kickstarter's kicking some ass. So, guys, check in on Thursday. We're going to have Sora on.
And she's wonderful.
Yes,
so,
she is. She's
thank you, gentlemen.
Nice. Yep. All right,
thank
everyone.
You,
thanks again,
thank you,
Dan.
Nile.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Dan,
everyone, thanks for viewing.
And if I may, Dan, anytime you want to come on, when it's ready to ship, the statue and everything like that, we'd love to have you on and let everyone know that it's out there, and we'll ask some real fun questions and see what you got going on next.
Absolutely. Love it. I'd love to.
Thank you, guys. My friend. It's a real privilege.
Have a great night. Thank you. Good night, everyone.